There is a quiet industry inside every human interaction, invisible currents that push and pull decisions long before words are spoken. You think people choose freely. You think choices are born from logic, from reason, from good intention. That is the luxury of those who've never studied the anatomy of influence. Manipulation is not an exotic force. It is ordinary. It lives in smiles, in silences, in the arrangement of chairs at a table. It is a grammar of power. Learn that grammar, and you read intentions. Fail to learn it, and you belong to other people's scripts. Let me begin with a simple truth. Manipulation is always about altering perception. If you can change what someone believes to be true about themselves, about you, about the stakes, you change their actions. That is the origin point. Every technique you will ever see or use is a vector aimed at perception.
There are patterns. Once you understand the patterns, the tricks lose their magic and become predictable. They become mechanical, like clockwork, and the clockmaker can either wind them or stop them. The manipulative patterns fall into a handful of families: control of attention, control of emotion, control of choice, and control of identity. Each family contains moves, soft, surgical, ancient, and modern, that repeat in boardrooms, bedrooms, politics, and playgrounds. Control attention by shaping what people look at. If you make something salient, it becomes important. A compliment, a dramatic gesture, a tear at the right moment, these are focus magnets. A manipulative hand will keep the spotlight on what benefits them and off what exposes them. Learn to notice what is being highlighted and what is being hidden.
Control emotion by seeding affect before logic takes hold. People judge quickly and rationalize slowly. Anger, fear, pity, these are fast highways to decisions. If a person can make you feel urgent, confused, guilty, or flattered, they can push you along a path you would never have chosen soberly. That is why manipulators often begin with small emotional calibrations. A slight shock, a flirt, a guilt-laced compliment. Emotions create momentum. Logic catches up later and pretends it led the way. Control choice by narrowing it. Give two doors, both of which guide to your outcome. Offer a trade where the visible loss is small but the hidden gain is large. The illusion of autonomy is their masterpiece. People prefer to believe they chose freely. Present options with skill, and they will walk the corridor you built, thinking they discovered it alone.
Control identity by assigning labels and roles. Call someone brave, tough, a natural leader, and they will move to fit that frame. Call them sensitive or immature, and they will wobble. We are taught to care about consistency. The manipulative mind plants an identity, then harvests behavior that proves it. Once someone acts to confirm their new label, you no longer persuade them, they persuade themselves. These mechanisms are not inherently evil. They are neutral tools. The artisan uses them to build, the pirate to plunder. What matters is intent. Now let me show you the most common archetypes you will meet in life: the charm offensive, the pressure play, the victim act, the triangulator, the gaslighter, the Pied Piper, and the silent strategist. Watch them as if they were tides. They look different on every shore, but their pull is the same.
The charm offensive arrives with warmth. It praises you. It syncs to your rhythm. It repeats your values louder than you do. Its aim is to create rapport so fast that critique feels like betrayal. Charm disarms skepticism. It purchases gratitude, loyalty, and a willingness to reciprocate. Beware gifts that come too early. Genuine warmth lingers. Manufactured charm rushes. The pressure play is the opposite. Urgency weaponized. Deadlines, take-it-or-leave-it offers, loud questions. These create cognitive speed. Speed bypasses scrutiny. Suddenly you sign, promise, or explain because your brain seeks closure before reason can protest. Pressure plays thrive in markets and relationships alike. Slow them with a breath. Time is your ally.
The victim act makes compassion a currency. It tells a story of harm, of unfairness, and invites rescue. Most people want to help. Some people exploit that desire. Compassion is not weakness. Unguarded compassion is vulnerability. Look for inconsistencies between the tale and the facts. Compassion paired with evasiveness is a red flag. Triangulation fragments trust. Instead of dealing with you, the manipulator loops in a third party, an ally, a whisperer, a mutual friend. They create side conversations, leaking half-truths, positioning themselves as the reasonable middle. Triangulators love gossip and subtle comparisons. The goal is to isolate and to make you dependent on their narrative.
Gaslighting is slower, crueler. It reframes your memory, your perception, your reality. It says you imagine that, or you're oversensitive, until you doubt the archive of your own life. The danger of gaslighting is that it is structural. It erodes the ground beneath action. The defense is documentation, community, and trust in your own record. The Pied Piper leads with charisma to gather followers. He prototypes the behavior he wants others to imitate. People mirror the leader sets the culture. If the leader's compass is false, an entire crowd can follow into ruin. Watch leaders not by what they promise, but by what they normalize.
Finally, the silent strategist waits. He does not shout. He places small, almost invisible moves. He stages pauses, propels others into action, then claims credit for the direction. He knows that visible force attracts attention and resistance. Invisibility invites compliance. These archetypes are not mutually exclusive. The skilled manipulator can be all of them in rotation. Now you know the shapes. Recognizing them is the first half of mastery. Recognition does not equal power, however. You must cultivate the inner technology to respond. That begins with observation, not judgment, and continues with three capacities: stillness, framing, and exit. Stillness neutralizes momentum. When someone pushes urgency, you don't push back with equal heat. You slow down. When someone seeks to provoke, you do not flinch. Stillness is not numbness. It's the practiced refusal to supply the energy manipulators crave. They build tools to harvest reaction. If you starve the tool of a feedstock, your emotion, it fails. Framing rewrites the map. Manipulators plant frames to make certain actions seem rational, moral, or inevitable. Learn to reframe. Offer a different map where their move looks unhelpful and your option looks obvious. Reframing is not lying. It is choosing the metric by which a decision is judged. Exit is the ultimate defense. The true leverage of manipulation depends on dependency. If you can walk away, their pressure loses its edge. Build options quietly: financial, social, professional. designscapes where leaving is possible. The willingness to take a step back changes the geometry of every interaction. This is part 1, the map. Understand it well. We will now descend from the map into the workshop. I will show you how specific moves are built and how to construct behavioral counters that preserve your integrity while neutralizing exploitation. We begin with the weapon that is also a mirror: selective reciprocity. Manipulators use small favors to create obligations you never agreed to. They buy leverage with kindness. The counter is symmetry. If someone offers you an advantage with strings, respond with calibrated reciprocity, a small return that preserves dignity and intelligence. If they demand escalating favors, keep exchanges balanced and documented. Reciprocity, when tracked, becomes a ledger you control, not an invisible debt they tax at will. Next, the slow-burn credibility sweep. Manipulators often seek to build reputations by staging small, consensual acts of alignment, agreeing with you in public, criticizing in private, praising superficially, and declaring loyalty loudly. They create a facade of congruence. Counter by triangulation of your own. Seek independent signals. Verify. Ask subtle, specific questions that reveal intimate knowledge instead of shallow conformity. The person who is performative will trip over detail.
Here is a surgical tactic. Ask diagnostic questions that are questions in form but commands in function. How exactly would you implement that step? Invites specifics. Who else benefits from this? Forces mapping. What's the cost if this fails? Reintroduces risk. These questions turn the tide by shifting the burden of proof back onto them. Manipulators prefer fog. Specificity kills fog. There is also the economy of praise. Praise is currency. Manipulators sometimes give it strategically to anchor you. When you receive disproportionate praise, do not accept it as truth. Instead, either normalize it with a redirect, "Thank you, but it was a team effort," or convert it into an action request. "If you think it's so helpful, would you support X?" This turns praise into accountability.
Now to the principle I call the echo and empty. Many manipulators speak in resonant phrases, slogans that trigger repeatable responses in the crowd. Watch for language that demands repetition without content. When you detect echo phrases, ask for examples. Request the story behind the slogan. If none exists, the phrase is a hollow drum for group cohesion rather than a statement of fact. A profoundly effective defense is publicization. Manipulators rely on private channels to optimize confusion. By making relevant evidence public, emails, minutes, transparent decisions, you restrict the pathways through which deception can travel. Transparency is a brutal antiseptic. Another offensive maneuver you can adopt ethically is the gentle redirect. When someone attempts to corner you emotionally, respond with a question that moves the conversation to process. Example, they attack your character, you say, "Let's table the allegation and return to the facts that matter for our decision." Redirects are calm, procedural, and deprive aggression of an audience.
There are also techniques geared to social networks. The triangulator feeds on fractured alliances. Repair that by building common frameworks. Invite the third party into transparent conversation. Insist on joint records. Propose neutral facilitation. The manipulator thrives on side channels.
Shut them with structure. Let me teach you a rare but powerful move: controlled reversal. Suppose a colleague tries to guilt you into extra work. Instead of defending or conceding, you accept the frame temporarily, then escalate it into a policy. If you need my help beyond our role, we should formalize an arrangement so workloads are recognized. Suddenly, the guilt play is reframed into an administrative problem, and the manipulator, who wanted an emotional lever, is forced into bureaucracy. Bureaucracy can be a weapon for fairness. When faced with gaslighting, do not try to argue memory. Gather evidence. Record conversations when lawful, keep dated notes, and confirm through multiple witnesses. Trust the archive of proof over the fog of argument. You will not win by shouting your memory louder. You will win by submitting the record.
There is another layer to practice: tone and micro-behavior. Manipulators read microsignals faster than overt speech. Breathe. Slow your cadence. Keep your hands visible, palms downward slightly. This signals steadiness. Mirror occasionally to build rapport, but when you need distance, reverse the pattern. Hold your posture, maintain controlled eye contact, and allow silence to expand. Silence forces the manipulator to fill the vacuum, often revealing their method. A dangerous trap is the moral counterattack, responding to manipulation with moral superiority. This rarely wins. It feeds the narrative of conflict and provides manipulators with an enemy to rally an audience around. Instead, you neutralize by framing outcomes and process, not morality. Make it about results and methods. Remove the emotional theater.
There will be times when the correct move is not defense, but exit. Leave quietly, without fanfare, with dignity. The manipulator often expects drama. Deny them that satisfaction. Depart with your value intact: a job, a relationship, a partnership, and preserve your reputation by explaining choices through simple, clear statements, not attacks. You asked earlier whether these are weapons or craft. The line is defined by purpose and restraint. Use these techniques to protect your mind and the people who rely on you. Resist the temptation to practice them as entertainment or domination. Mastery without ethics degrades into cruelty. Training yourself requires iteration. Set micro-experiments. In low-stakes situations, practice strategic questions, calibrated concessions, and pauses. Keep a journal of outcomes. Note when others escalate, when silence works, when evidence wins. Learn the tempo of your own body so you can choose stillness intentionally rather than reflexively. Your emotional economy is a market. Invest with deliberation.
Finally, cultivate a personal code. The most lethal manipulators are those who confuse absence of feeling with absence of consequence. You can be impenetrable and humane. You can be strategic and kind. The code is simple. Never plant a seed you would not be ready to harvest ethically. If your action would degrade another just for sport, do not perform it. Strategy without integrity is a hollow power. Walk forward with one sentence carved into your chest. Clarity follows calm. Mastery follows practice. Power begins with perception, but it is sustained by character. You now hold a map and a toolbox. You've learned the families of influence and specific counters, the micro-behaviors that protect you, and the strategic moves that shift outcomes. Use them precisely, and remember the first rule of any craft. Mastery without restraint is not mastery. It is corrosion. Leave the theater of reaction. Enter the workshop of design. Be deliberate. Be unreadable when it protects you. Be transparent when it empowers others. Above all, hold your center. That is your final advantage. the quiet architecture under every successful defense. You will be tested. Breathe. Wait. Name the move. Then, move on your terms.